This video is to show you the new form editor that recently released in Fred. And so I'm in Forms in Process. I've already set up my transaction. That part hasn't changed at all. I've added my form package for a listing and I've pulled from the assessor site. Now I'm going to go out into my listing agreement. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but the classic editor is what you are currently using. The new form editor is the upgraded one. There's some really great things I think you're going to like, and it's going to save time. But you can work in either one interchangeably. So you can go out and update a couple things on the listing agreement in the classic, and then come into the new form editor, and all of those same changes would be there. So one of the things I really like is that it has all of these different toolbars along the edge. So you never have to leave the form editor, whereas before you had to get out to go to your sellers or your parties. You had to get out to go to kind of the data fields within the summary. You had to get out to create a new e-sign. And now you can, right while you're in your form, you can access a lot of those things here right along the side of the toolbar. So I'm going to go into listing info just to kind of get you started in showing you this. It has several key data fields here. It's not intended to be all of them, but several of the key ones within the for a listing are going to be present here. And I can also pull from Matrix or from the tax record. So I've already done that, which is why you see a year built here, but I want to click on it just to show you it's very similar. It brings up how you want the seller parties to display and if you want to replace the existing data. And then I'm going to go ahead and import. And it shows me that that was successful. So I don't even have to leave this area or this form to be able to do that. And then I can type in, like you can see it populating on the left there in my form while I'm typing into that data field on the right. I can also type into my form and it will type. After I tab out of this field, you're going to see it pop over here on the right. So you can see it in those fields there. Um, so just really nice to be able to pop between the two of those, whether you prefer to just fill in these key dates first or you want to or these key data fields, excuse me, or you want to fill it directly off the form. Same thing for the offer info. So this other tab here is just for pending transactions and some of the key fields that relate to those. And then another area I really like is the tools. So before we would need to cross this out or strike out a portion of the verbiage in the listing agreement. And then in order to add new text, you would need to go into the e-sign functionality to add those text boxes. And in the new form editor, you can do it all in one place. So I can redact and I'm just going to click and drag over that area that I don't want. And then I'm going to click anywhere on the form to get to back to my all the tools. And I'm going to click on text box, just draw that text box where I want it and click in it and type. And I can resize it if I want it skinnier. That's actually how it normally comes up. And then I'm going to put a line between them just to show that that's what goes together. And again, I'm going to just click off of it to get off that tool. Now, there's all kinds of options here, like if you like to make it bold or color in different colors, that's all available. But pretty self-explanatory. You can also add parties to the transaction. So again, I mentioned you don't have to leave your form to do that. So if you need to add like a signing representative or remove a party, you can do that. If you want to add, you can add from scratch or from your Google contacts. So like here, I'm going to add Eric and he's just going to be popped out there. So just really handy. And then I want to go back to explaining this. This is kind of the default window when you open into the form editor. And you'll notice they've split it into two sections. So it's got this top workspace, which I think of kind of like my desktop. What do I want to work on right now? What do I want on my desk? That's my workspace. Down here at the bottom then, where it says grab from transaction, this is everything that's in kind of that file folder, right? That transaction folder. It's every single document on the transaction. So you can see out here, you want to pay special attention underneath the title of the document because it tells you what type of a document it is and where it lives in the transaction. So for example, there are PDFs out here, forms that are not modifiable. This along this left is not a PDF, this is a form. So this PDF is something that I have had e-signed already. So you can see that it says it's a PDF and that it says it lives in the e-sign packet 2/22 July. So that's the folder that it's in. Same with this affiliated, it's the signed PDF that I've sent out. And then there's my log for e-sign. Then underneath that, I have form. So these are coming from when I applied my listing form packet, and they are modifiable forms, just like what you're seeing here, where I can type into fields of the form and actually get it ready for signature or ready to send out. So as you're working, everything is handy down here to be able to grab. The only things that are not down here would be things that you have submitted for approval already and they've been put into placeholders because they consider those placeholders more permanent and you don't need to modify them anymore. All the other forms would be down here to pick from. So I'm going to pretend I'm continuing on this transaction. I've already sent out my agency and affiliated to be signed, and I've got my listing agreement here. I need to add my arbitration. So I'm just going to click the plus signs to throw what I want to work with now up on my desk, essentially. So it's putting these up into my workspace. I don't need the agency or affiliated forms because I've already had those signed. So now I'm moving on down to the seller settlement, mortgage verification, the home warranty items, and then I think I'm kind of done. So other things that you might want to know is maybe I add a form and I don't mean to. So I just clicked on the referral form, broker to broker, and it came up here into my desk area, my workspace, and I don't want it. So to put it back down into the folder or into the bottom, I'm just going to click on the X and it goes back down here. It's actually right down there. So that is different from if you want to take it out of the transaction altogether. So you might have a form in your transaction or a document in your transaction that you don't want to see in your transaction at all. And if that's the case, then you can check it and actually hit the trash can, which is going to take it out of your transaction altogether. So now it's taking it out of this folder concept down here, and it's just putting it in, nowhere. If you wanted to recapture that later, you could go to the form library and grab it. And so I'm going to show you that as well. So now let's say I need to add a form from the library. The suggested tab is still being tweaked, so just ignore that. You're going to go to the form library and pick whatever form you'd like to add. So if I want to add that acknowledgement, and if I have a form on my computer, or I might have it attached to an email, I can also just click upload. And I've got an email open with a builder addendum. I'm just gonna drag that builder addendum over and drop it. And so you can see both of those forms up here on my workspace area. And again, they're the last two forms there in that space. So once you have all your forms that you're wanting to work with on your workspace or your desk, that is an easy way then to just grab them and you can then print, email, you can download them. And this little button is my favorite. It's an e-sign. And so if you want to send an e-sign, you don't have to go out like before and create the e-sign and then add the documents. You can actually have all the documents right here that you're working with and then just click the e-sign button and it will send all of those. And the e-sign process has not changed. So that is going to still be those three screens that you go through. It's just in that first screen where you normally have to add your documents. These documents will already be there. So yeah, just some really great functionality. I think they've just really made it easier to work out here. Just to show you how printing works, I'm going to click print. Just to give you a taste of kind of how that works, it pops up a different tab right here beside where I was before, and then I could just click print. And when I'm done with that, then I can close out of it, and here I am back in my transaction. Now, one of the things I really like about this workspace or this desk type of idea, I'm going to click save and pretend that I got a phone call and I had to get out and I had to look something else up. I'm going to hit this back button. That should be one of your favorites because that's what takes you back to your folder. So that's the button they want you to use when you're done doing the form modifier. to come back into this view. So what's great is when I wrap up that phone call and I'm ready to get back into this transaction, I just go back in and click on the listing agreement. And when I open this up, it's going to prompt me and say, hey, do you want to open up that same workspace? Do you want those forms you were working on up here on top to open up again? Right up here on top, or are you starting kind of fresh? Are you working on something different now? And now you just want a new workspace with only the listing agreement that you just picked. So it makes it really easy to just jump right back into where you were. And so I just selected that I wanted the same thing. So those are all right up on top. And so now I could grab them and send my e-sign and move on down the road. As far as just your random filling out your forms, that's very much the same. You just, uh, fill out whatever you need to fill out or whatever's appropriate as you scroll through the forms. So very user friendly. Again, I'm going to hit back. I want to show you just a couple of things they're still working out the kinks on. Notice it did ask me if I want to save because I hit back without saving. So just an FYI there, that it will prompt you rather than lose any of your changes. So one of the things is that these are the two documents that I just added while I was in the form editor. And you'll notice they are not in the folder that I was working in. And so that's a tweak that they're making, is to get those to go directly into whatever folder you were working in previously. So I'm just going to check them both and move them because I like to keep my folders kind of clean. And so you would need to manually move those until it's fixed. But I didn't feel that was too much of a showstopper. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is the estimate of proceeds. So if I click out here and go to estimate, I'm going to go into the classic because there's an issue with the calculations on this form in the form editor, in the new form editor. And so I'm just going to put in $1,000 here. And so this form, oh, I put in 10, that's okay. This form, really needs to be filled out in the classic version for now. And later this week, they're supposed to fix that and get it all working in the new form editor as well. But just so you know, there is a bug with that right now. So you'll want to fill that one out here. And once I've fixed that, or I've created that estimate of proceeds, I can go back. And if you are finding you like working in the new one, you can still come into the new one and open up that estimate of proceeds. And it's right here on the bottom because I added it in. And you'll notice it, like I said, it saves the stuff that you do in one to the other. And so you can always still send out your e-sign from here if you wanted to. You can always go back and use the old e-sign method as well. But you just can't create this form in the new form editor because it doesn't calculate this section correctly. But if you've done it in the classic, you can certainly access it and send it out from the new form editor as well. So that's what I've got. If you have any feedback, they're watching this closely, so you can always click on feedback and pick, whether you like it or not. You can add an evaluation, tell them if they can contact you, and they're watching these very closely. So I hope you like it. Thanks.